Hey, Ellen. Are you seeing us in our Facebook page? Because for some reason, I'm not seeing us in our Facebook page. Yes, okay. Then maybe it's just me. Again, having technology issues. Hey, Karen. Hey, Anne. Good to see you. Nope, I'm wondering if it's in our page or our. Oh, I'm in the page, not the group. Okay, let's see how I can fix this. You guys are on the public page. Let me put the link in the other board. Ah, there you guys are. Hey, Leela, Janet. Yes, I know. I'll eventually figure this out, right? Facebook was giving me a hard time and I couldn't figure out where it was streaming to. But for some reason Zoom it won't take my Zoom anymore. So I have to remember to figure that part out. It's the same trouble it gave me last week. So let's just give a couple minutes for people to kind of catch up because I linked it into the wrong place. Hey Dan, how you feeling? Evening, Sheila. Yes, it's been a busy week. Joe from Rockaway. I wish I was in Rockaway. Hello, Susie. Good to see you. Hey, Carol. Hey, John. I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, and last week I had an issue with it. I wasn't able to upload the live, but this I should be able to record today. Very good. I know I'm looking forward to the weekend. Fridays are a struggle being up so early. And you are on. Just this is a live stream through StreamYard. It's not a Zoom. So I'll monitor on both sides. Most people's comments are coming into the feed. Let's just give it a couple. Oh, we're already at 100. Give it another minute just to let people catch up. Oh, Faye, I am not a morning person. I have never been a morning person. I used to yell at my mother when she'd call me at in the morning and I'd say, "Call me after 10." I am not a morning person. The struggle. Evening, Ruth. I live in Riverdale. I didn't know if his quote meeting until I learned about it from you, Marianne. Thank you for all that you do. Well, and Steve, I didn't know about it until I was asked by a reporter, like, are you here? And I said, where? And he said, your retirees are in this town hall at the Y. And I said, they are? And I literally pulled my car over and put on YouTube. And I was like, and I see a couple of retirees that some I recognized and some I didn't. I was like, this is interesting. And just click the link. It'll take you to the other Facebook group and you could watch it from there. That's all you have to do. Marianne, if you would, please send that message through the email about your Venmo issue, and we'll address it. Okay, so I'm going to start now because it is getting late. All right. So let's just start off with some housekeeping. Our current fundraising total as of today was $92,372. So thank you guys for all of that. I truly appreciate everything that you guys do to help keep these cases going, especially juggling as much as we are. So that's out of the way. The next thing we're going to talk about is the cases, because there was a lot going on with that this week. So the copay case, you understand we have 3 cases going, right? So the first case we have is the Campion case. That's basically about what is the definition of 12-126. That there was just calendared this morning and in the New York State Court of Appeals in Albany, and I believe the date was the 15th at 2 p.m. Let me just go to my text messages and make sure I remember that correctly. Because we will be needing to take a bus of you guys up there. October 15th. Okay. So October 15th, put that date on your calendar. That will be the Court of Appeals case. That is the highest appeal level that we can get to. We have won the first 2 cases, remember? The mayor filed what they call leave to appeal. And the court took it. So that was the Campion case. We will be hearing our attorneys argue that on October 15th. The second case is the copay case, the Bianculli case. This case is really important. It's the copays. Now, there's 2 different avenues for this. There's a Supreme Court case, which is the meat and potatoes of the case. This is arguing, will the court give us the reimbursement for the first year's worth of copays from 2022? That case still has not been argued yet. Okay. There was a stay on the injunction, which just got lifted. And then we also filed a third part of that, which was a class action status which Emblem and the city just appealed that today. So that got filed. So we're in like 2 different courts with this one copay case. Okay. The copay case has not been solved. It's not been decided by the judge. That still has to be done. What was lifted last night when I did that video for you, was the stay on imposing the copays. And that's because the copay case was as of a breach of contract. Once the city fixed the contract, there's no longer a breach. So we kind of had a feeling that this might happen, that they might go back and fix it. But what it actually does is justifies the first part, because if they had to fix something, that means that they made a mistake, helps our case going forward with arguing with that copay case. However, it does leave open the door that the city can charge copays come January of 2025, and the copays in that contract were $15. That doesn't mean it will always be $15. It could be more, it could be less. I have absolutely no idea what they will do, but that opens up a whole nother argument later on. Can we appeal that decision? Yes, we can. There are some conversations that the board has to have with that, though, and we have to have those next week because we just could not get everybody together this week. We will work on that as well. So that's the copay case. The next is we're waiting to be calendared to the New York State Court of Appeals, where we're going in October, for the Bentkowski case, and that's the nuclear option case. In that case, it was when the mayor eliminated all of our choices of healthcare plans, and he went to force us into the Medicare Advantage plan. That said, we're waiting for the court to determine whether or not they will take that case, okay? Once we know, we will definitely let you know. I'm just trying to scroll through some of these. George, my condolences. I did not see that you lost your wife on Tuesday. Everyone needs to keep George in their prayers and say a good prayer for his wife. I'm going to tell my mom to go and meet your wife. Looks like George is getting a lot of love on all of this. So, Janet says there is a voice lag in this live stream. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. I got to work with what I got to work with. Michelle says if we are charged copays, that will suck. Yes, it will. But remember, too, I believe they're going to use that as a kind of a mechanism to force you off of senior care and into Medicare Advantage. Faye, so you don't have a lag there either. I'm not seeing a lag on my computer, so maybe Janet, it might be a Wi-Fi issue where you are. Good to know. Okay, no lags. That's good. So that's the copay case. And the Bentkowski case and the Campione case. Those are your three cases, okay? What else did you guys want to talk about today? So now we have that one case decision about the copay, the injunction, the stay was lifted off of the copays, and we also had the city and Emblem file the brief in the other case, appealing the class action status. Thank you, Jeanette. And Inez. Yeah, I can't control lags, unfortunately. It's either your Wi-Fi or mine. I still don't get how copays are legal. That means we are cost sharing the 20%. Well, that's what they changed. If you remember, the language of the SPD said that the Medicare will pay the first 80%. Senior care will pay the last 20%. Now they took that language out and they put the copay language in. It's no longer a breach of contract, and they're no longer saying 80-20. Okay, so Carol says if we are supposed to start in January, where did that go? If we are supposed to start in January, what happens to the copays that we didn't pay? So I'm assuming those are the ones for 22. That case hasn't been decided yet. This was just the stay. This is the part of the law that stopped them from imposing them from January 12th. Remember, the court stepped in and said, "City, stop doing this," and stopped the case, stopped the copays from being charged to you. So that was effective January 12th of 2023. So between January 1st of 2022 and January 12th of 2023, that still has to be argued. Nothing's happened to that yet, okay? Can you explain what contract they changed? So they explained they changed the part of the contract that allows them to charge copays. Before they were just saying senior care will charge 20%. Now they're not going to say that. What do you need on Venmo? Email what he got as response. If you could forward us whatever, Marianne, whatever issue you're having, just do it by email. I cannot do this in this forum. Retirees@nycretirees.org. Send it to the email. I can't answer that here. Remember, we're trying also to move away from all these different places of being able to donate. We're going to try to create a platform, a payment platform that you can actually pay on and create your own accounts and do everything right there. Is there any update on DC 37 Retirees Association fight with AFSCME? No, there is no update. But you should be in touch with DC 37 Retirees, formerly known as the association group. Reach out to Neil and them if you want to stay in touch. You should be on their email list. So I guess I'm dense. How can they change it if we never had to pay them before? Serena Mia, they changed the contract between the city and Emblem so they could change it to whatever they want at this point. Faye says, I spoke today with retired school nurse in Hyde Park, different union mayor, no knowledge of our plight, says not affected. Just because they're not affected today doesn't mean they won't be affected tomorrow. Is there any limit on how high the copays could go? In January, the copays are slated to be $15. Peter, I thought Judge Frank ruled that the promise to us was that the city would pay all medical costs for retirees. If there is a copay, then the city isn't paying all costs. Judge Frank ruled that the city will pay the full cost of health coverage. The coverage is determined, identified as premium. Daniel, we will prevail. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, New York City retirees, for your persistence, resilience, and commitment. We love you, Dan. Gerald, the city and the MLC and insurance company came up with their own contract on copays. The retirees have no say. We're having those discussions. This is just not an easy conversation to have at this point. I don't know how they're allowed to change because the contract isn't a contract between you and them. The contract is a contract between the insurance company and the city. New Hyde Park is Long Island, not New York City. Yep. They can change the contract. However, that's not the contract that was in effect when we were working. Well, but that's a different kind of contract. You're talking about a labor contract. This is a vendor contract, completely different. Dan says they've raised copays on active worker urgent care several times since 15. Correct. And they've also imposed copays on radiology, ERs. Joe says, being we were never charged copays before this MAP plan, I believe the mayor told Emblem to do this to force us into go to MAP. I believe you're correct. But assume Emblem wanted more money and deducted copays. No, Emblem didn't do this. Emblem was told to do it because of a negotiation between the MLC and the city of New York. Emblem didn't just decide to raise copays. No, it wasn't them that did that. Sorry, that came out in the court case as well, and we knew that as well from the MLC negotiations. Peter, but when copays were added, the premiums went down. Yes, we know that too, but the judge did not buy that argument. Can the comptroller refuse to sign the contract? That's a good question, Sherry. He might. I can ask. Faye, Carol Lucchese, yes, that's what I thought. It's crazy. They may be safe or not, and we're fighting 3 years and higher salary. Yeah, I don't think anybody's safe to be quite honest with you. Dan, we need to hold this mayor to his words before retirees this week, or we make sure he's primaried. Yes, actually, and there's potentially a primary in District 39. There's someone, I believe, that's registered, I saw today, for running against Shahana Hanif. Mayor can override comptroller not signing the contract. Yes, he can. Gerald and Peter, you are correct. Absolutely correct. Because he did it the last time. Even if the comptroller doesn't sign the contract, the mayor can still overrule him and do it anyway, just like he did with the MA plan. Some amendments to contracts need to be approved by the comptroller as opposed to just approved pro forma. Yep. Regardless of the city's contract, a promise was made to city workers, 80/20. But again, the judge did not agree with that change. He was going statutorily, which says that the city will pay the full cost of health coverage. But the mayor is feeling pressure now. So everyone saw what happened in the Bronx, right? So in Riverdale, he was at the Y, and the retirees were there asking him about the Medicare Advantage plan. He actually threw Michael Mulgrew under the bus, and he kept saying, I guess he was trying to deflect. And he kept saying, well, you know how this started, right? You know how this started. It all because of Michael Mulgrew. And then all of a sudden he's walking away from, what he started. Yeah, we get that part, but he's the mayor and the buck stops with him. If you watched my video, I actually put that little clip in the end. He is the mayor, and he says, the buck stops with me. I am the mayor. Well, I'm using his own words. Go back and watch the video that I posted last night, because he can stop this. And then look at the article I posted tonight from Work Bites. He doesn't want to step in or interfere, or none of this makes sense. And then the very next day, if you read the Work Bites article, look at what his office puts out. That the plan is better, it's a savings, it's enhanced. I mean, the same talking points that he's been talking about for the last 3 years that the court knocked down. And then my reply: do you think Mike Mulgrew will react publicly to the town hall? Honestly, Lila, I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't already done it. So Janet says the city still has to abide by Administrative Code 12-126, where the city will pay the entire cost of health insurance coverage for employees, retirees, and their dependents. So no, right? Isn't a copay, a premium, a part of the cost share? Go back to 12-126 and look at what it defines as the cost of health coverage. That's where we're having this issue. Lenny, so the next case on copays, we can still get rid of them, or is this a done deal? Sorry, confused. For right now, the contracts will now state, effective January 2025, they can charge a $15 copay. And they can change that going forward. But again, the purpose of this was a contractual argument, like we've always said. Their contract said it was an 80-20 rule. They had to live up to the contract. So for 2022, while they were trying to charge copays, we will probably win that case because the contract was wrong. However, they could change that contract. It's a vendor, and they've been changing insurance contracts for decades. Just because you may have been in a plan that hasn't necessarily changed, but they did argue that as well. Your plan changed in 2004. Your senior care, you got a copay on hospitalization in 2004. The HIP plan has copays all the time. Serena Mia, the contract can be changed by the City of New York with Emblem Health. We are a third party beneficiary to that contract. That is not a contract between us and Emblem. It is a contract between the City of New York and Emblem Health. We are a third party beneficiary to it. Is the retired teacher union putting any pressure on Mulgrew to help us? Well, Joe, I am sure Bennett Fisher, the chapter leader for the retired teacher chapter, is probably putting some pressure on Mr. Mulgrew. I'll see if he could join us next Friday. Yes, Jeanette, it was Judge Frank. What other questions you have? Hey, David. So that's basically why I'm saying to you that we need to start paying attention as to who's running for what positions and make sure that we hold them accountable. If there's a council person or a mayor or a whoever that says that they support you, but they're not doing anything for you, then they don't really support you. We need to look and see who their challenges are, and we need to ask them, how would they handle this? Sorry, dense, but city doesn't bargain for. But Serena Mia, this is not bargaining. This is not a labor contract. This is a vendor. Completely different than a labor contract. Didn't the federal government always control traditional Medicare in the past and just a few years ago give control to the cities? Do you know why that change occurred? So, Kathy, what happened in 2003? It was a rule change, a law was changed called the Medicare Act under President Bush. And it allowed for this seamless transition into Medicare Advantage by employer group waiver plans or union plans, of which we are in an employer group waiver plan. It would probably never have been thought of by real rock solid unions to have moved their people into Medicare Advantage, but they did. Mimi Alperstein, you just described Lynn Schulman. I've described a lot of people, actually, especially ones that are now term limited and looking to find other offices and take pictures and send newsletters out that they're supporting retirees so that they could use them in whatever their next endeavor is. I just read an article. Yeah, so Paula says, I just read an article. Oop, wrong question. Hold on. Where Schumer supports Medicare Advantage. So that article will bring you to an Empire report, which ends up being like a lobby for AHIP. And yes, we know that Schumer took money from the big insurance companies. We talked about that some months ago. It was like tens of thousands of dollars. He didn't sign on to protect traditional Medicare. And the woman that wrote that article is from Onondaga County, an elected official herself. don't want to have enough money to fight to keep Medicare. Other cases secondary, trying to get others involved. Paula, we're going to keep chugging along. I mean, we're doing what we can. Daniel, actions speak louder than words. Lila, I will be going to the first delegate meeting coming up in October. Hopefully, I will have news from that meeting to report back to the group. Johanna, hi, Nimi. Carol, when does the Emblem Health contract? I believe that contract, if you're asking me when it expires, I believe it's for the year. And Zoma, if you look at all of the Empire Report Network, look at the network, at the Empire Report Network, they're all Medicare Advantage supportive letters. That is a lobby for the Empire people, for the Medicare Advantage people. And most of them are supported by AHIP, Medicare Advantage. Since our great premium-free health coverage was initiated to attract and retain our employment in New York City without prior written notice, how is anyone able to pay with original Medicare years after we agreed to work for the city? So Annie, they're not changing your original Medicare. You have your original Medicare and you have your senior care at the moment. What they are changing is the copays in the supplemental senior care. But a law was changed that allows your employer, former employer, or your former union to push you, your union or your employer, to force you into a Medicare Advantage plan. That happened in 2003. There was an issue brief that we showed you guys back in 2021 from MedicareAdvocacy.org that actually lays that out. They wrote about us. That's how we found out about this. If we use 12-126, are we less than the HIP cap? How can we pay more? Again, you're talking premium. 12-126 focuses on premium, doesn't have any impact on copays. So going forward, even though we win, we lose. City can contract with senior care vendor to basically pay very little, but city is paying the premium. So, but Mary, you can't look at it that way. I know you're saying, but there's copays, but every other city healthcare plan had copays. The active workers had copays. You had copays when you were on GHI CBP. HIP has copays. The VIP plan has copays. The Medicare Advantage plan has copays. It has to do with premium. Schumer needs to be put out to pasture. He's 100 years already. Yes, he is there 100 years already. Ellen says, donate, donate, donate. Michael, isn't there an implied contract with the city workers who believe the 80-20 split does not include copays regardless of the city's vendor contract? But again, if you go back to 12-126, you have to read what the definition is. I just emailed Justin Brannon again, waiting for a response. Good luck with that. I don't think he's going to reply. Adam said, keep fighting in court, but no one asks him why he keeps appealing our wins. No, he's not answering that question. And I look at it. I don't think he wants to admit that he's screwed up, right? Or anybody's screwed up. We still have an ability to appeal this decision. It has to be evaluated. Remember, we're not going to just take any old appeal if we don't feel that it will be worthwhile. You want to argue a case that you're going to win. The board has to look at that decision tomorrow and then discuss it with the attorneys on Monday. "3 years ago, I wondered if this bait and switch could have impacted only employees who signed on to work after 2001. If that's the date our employees gained." Annie, you didn't finish your sentence, so I don't know what that means. Hey, John, stop trying to get me to run for mayor. It's just not going to happen. Janet, it's hard to believe all these years no copays without a law, and it was just done because there was a bad perception they would have no copays. But there is a law, and all the other plans have copays, and copays have existed since the beginning of time in the healthcare program. They never said you would have completely free healthcare. It would be premium free, is what their description was. They're manipulating that, though, to say that, and we can make a direct correlation that when they added copays, the premium dropped. The judge did not buy that argument. We've argued that. Jake argued it. You guys were there. So far, Gail, we can keep our traditional Medicare. Please take care of your health and say goodnight to us. 6:30 to 9 on Fridays is too much. I was up at 5:30. I don't know who you're talking to. If we appeal, will that put a stay on it again? It may not. We talked about that yesterday briefly. It may not. Lila says, I don't think it'll be worthwhile appealing this decision when we have bigger fish to fry. Well, the larger fish to fry is the cost of the plan, because they can either take the plan away from you or charge you a premium for it if we lose the other cases. So if you want to put them about in an order of priority, absolutely. Campion and Bentkowski would probably have a higher priority for all of us in terms of cost than copays. Copays, don't forget, Michael Mulgrew admitted, and if Dan is still in here, Mulgrew admitted that copays in an RTC meeting were meant as a stopgap, he called it. And that copays, he actually said one day in one of his RTC meetings that copays penalized people using their insurance, and it does. He readily admitted it. And it is a penalty. It's a penalty to your infirm. It's a penalty to people who need healthcare. It charges you for using it. So his thought was, let's just do it as a stopgap measure, but there was no stopgap. It was a lie. I think that's what he said to everybody to get them to agree with it. To summarize, all we lost was the temporary restraining order that stopped the copays, but this case is still pending. Yes. And the copays would go back in effect January of 2025. Your board will decide if we continue this case or there's another case or is there another case on this pending. The copay case still has the meat and potatoes of the case to be argued, which is the January 1, 2022 to January 12th of 2023. All those copays that you guys paid, that still has to be argued. This wasn't a temporary restraining order. This was it was a temporary restraining order on them charging those copays that got lifted. It was a stay that was lifted. It was vacated. So they can now do it because they corrected the problem. The brief said the contract states X, Y, and Z. They changed the contract. Now it doesn't say X, Y, and Z. Now it actually states that they'll charge copays. And now they can because the contract's been corrected. Yeah, I'd like to penalize him too, Camille. Might it be possible to get them to charge a $5 copay instead of 15? They've negotiated a contract without us, my dear. And, one ringy dingy, two ringy dingy mayor still doesn't call me. You know, I'll try again tomorrow. I don't know. I might have to change my name to Jamie Summers or something because he's not answering Wonder Woman. So $15 for each OTPT speech therapy 2 times. Basically, that's what that's looking for. I know we're not happy about this either. Mulgrew is playing dirty. Mulgrew has been playing dirty. Well, so maybe you guys should start messaging Lander on social media and seeing where he stands on this. I mean, he did come out with a City and State article the other day. It was actually why I think the mayor did what he did at the town hall that he held in the Bronx was probably because Brad Lander's piece in the City and State magazine came out the night before. Mm-hmm. Just go to Gracie Mansion and knock on his door. I'd probably get arrested. I think for elderly disabled people who are not prepared, they will have I agree with you 110%. So we pay copays and increasing deductibles. And Rose, you can write an email and thank Michael Mulgrew. Carol, Buffy is a good name. You're slaying it. You're going to laugh your ass off when I tell you this, but back in the 90s, my nickname in the ambulance was Buffy. And it had nothing to do with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And if any of my old friends from St. John's are on here, they'll definitely they will back that up. I actually had a license plate that said Buffy. I don't even know if I still have that in my phone. If I find it, I will post it. I had a license plate that said that. Our older retirees who have multiple medical PT visits each month will be hard pressed to pay these copays. As you've often said, it's a car payment. I say it every time that for many of our infirm retirees, it amounts to a car payment. I hope Lander will respect Adi Bakkin's memory and support us. I hope so too, Camille. Yes, St. John's, Queens, Carol. That's where one of the first places I was working in the ambulance department, and I was the second female to work in that department as well. You need to get some rest, I know. If Adam's not running for mayor, he won't care. Well, you raise a very interesting point. I don't see why he wouldn't run. I mean, he is fundraising. All of these investigations going around him for everything, basically. But, campaign money and whatever. Lander should address the same group with the real facts. Ernesto, that's a really good question. Well, and Carol, he wants to hire a new city lawyer. So look at this. He let go he let 3 women, very powerful, strong women, leave his administration. His chief of the law department, the chief of the fire, commissioner of the fire department, and the commissioner of the police department. Something's not right. Like him, don't like him. Something's not right. Janice says he will run. I think you're right. But Ernesto, I really like that statement. Please write to Brad Lander and ask him to address that town hall and copy the link to that 7-minute town hall segment and ask him to go to that Y in Riverdale and address that same crowd. Is the copay a done deal? Guess it can't be brought up again after a later date. As always, thank you for your hard work. Susan, again, for like the 18th, 100th time, it was just the stay on the copays that was lifted. The argument of the case still needs to be argued. The meat and potatoes of the whole copay case, which was the basis of a breach of contract from 2022. That was the basis of the argument. He's running. He's just got line of garbage he gave in the Bronx. Yeah. Lobbyist and campaign money is the beginning of the end of this problem. Our leaders have the ethics of a bird stealing a piece of bread from another. I have a genetic neuromuscular disease and go to PT 2 times a week. I still have mobility issues, but if I didn't go, I wouldn't be able to work at all. I totally understand you there. Listen to Marianne. Thank you, Ellen. And Ernesto says, yes, I'm not kidding. Write that email. If we secure Lander in our side, over 250,000 retirees, relatives, and friends might be attractive. That's why I made the comment I made last night video. We need to be organized as an organization that is going to rally around either a candidate that we are putting up to challenge someone or someone who's going to do the work to support us, okay? Now, you already have a gentleman who used to be a political strategist for the United Federation of Teachers. I believe he's coming out of District 30, Bob Holden's district. He's not going to be a friend of ours because he's a political strategist for Michael Mulgrew. So we already know. We now need to see who else is going to come out and vote, run in that position. That would be a challenger. And then we have to have a conversation with them is where do you stand on this? And do you want our support? Because we need to be the people that will say to them, and this is going to mean you guys need to start going to their offices and start saying, what are you doing? And actually, that should be your next homework. We still have our state bill kind of hanging around in the state. If your state legislator, you're either senator or assembly person, is not on that New York state bill, then you guys need to start dropping into their offices and saying, where do you stand on Senate 8388, Assembly Bill 7866? I want you guys for the next 2 weeks to start dropping in to your local offices, local district offices of your senators and assembly persons and ask them why they're not on the bill if they're not. And I'll make a note to myself to put the link again that you can check and see if your assembly person and senator is on the bill. We need to get people to volunteer to support the candidate this organization will support. And some of it's going to start with out. I mean, will they support you? James, it's not a unilateral decision. It was a negotiation between the city and the insurance company and the municipal labor committee. They The Assembly bill is Assembly 7866, Senate 8388. And yes, I believe Brad Holyman is on the bill. Yep. What happened to the two people you were helping switch from Aetna Medicare Advantage back to traditional Medicare? So that husband and wife team, um, we got them with the help of Office of Labor Relations. We actually got them off Aetna Medicare Advantage and onto traditional Medicare with senior care. The other lady with the defibrillator, she's transit. She can't go anywhere. That's the only plan that they offered her. So she's stuck. Where would you find that link? I will post it to the Facebook page, but if you go to Google and you put NYS, as in New York State, Assembly 7866 8388, you should get the bill to come up, and it should be the health, the health bill. You'll see talks about healthcare for 23-24. Yes, Annie, the copays that you already paid for 2022, where we are pretty hopeful we should win that part of the case. Okay, thank you. We need a bill. Stop monkeying around insurance companies in New York City and get rid of copays. Again, Helen, I'm saying it for like the millionth time. The copay case is not fully resolved. This was just the stay that was lifted, preventing the city from charging copays. John, retired NYPD Lieutenant Vito Labella, fighting for New York, is running for the New York State Senate in Western Brooklyn District 26. There are some ordinary folks who try to get elected, machine polls that make Mogu look good. We elect these people. Yes, we do. How are we doing with city council members, or did we give up on this duck, duck, goose circle? We're not done with them yet. You should actually be going into your local council person's office as well when you're making the rounds, going shopping next week and stopping in at your senator and assembly person's office and asking them, are you getting back on our bill? But chances are, since there's not one yet on the floor for them to get on, they'll just blow you off. If they did co-sponsor the state bill, can we assume they still support it or check in with them? You could check in with them, or you can say thank you for getting on it. And, when it comes back in January, would you get back on? Because we have to get a new number and bring it back in January. Okay. We need to make it clear the co-sponsoring a bill, then moving it to the third reading, then throwing it into file 13 is not acceptable. We need leaders to do the right thing. Yes, we do. You're welcome, Camille. So remember, we're the ones that keep them responsible. We're the ones that hold their feet to the fire. So no, Vicky Palladino hasn't done squat for us either. She hasn't called us. She hasn't answered my calls, my text messages. She's another one that she had the pledge in the window, but she didn't do anything with it. After getting onto the bill then, once the bill died, I haven't heard from her. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe if I hang a lottery sign on my front porch, maybe she'd come and yell at me. Jon Stewart's not going to get involved. We've already tried. Yes, cowards. They are cowards, Gerald. How much longer till we replace Garrido? I think it's either this November or it's next November. Let me find out. All right. Out for themselves, constituents come in second. Yep. Basically, yep. That's all. You're absolutely correct. We had a group meeting with her last month. She promised to follow up, even to try with the mayor. I never heard from her, Larry. Never heard from her. And she has my cell phone number. MLC leadership of Nespoli, Mulgrew, Garrido et al. Must be voted out, and the guidelines of voting in the MLC must be changed. You read my article. Yep. Now we just got to educate them because that is not something we vote on. New York City Council member Eric Botcher was supposedly our supporter. My dear, Eric Botcher was never our supporter. Sorry to tell you that. Scott Stringer has an exploratory committee to challenge Adams. He was a supporter. I know Nemi, but he hasn't also come out straight and said anything. I think he's there's a connection there with Michael Mulgrew. Ellen says Susan Zwang has been a dud for us. What happened? Well, we listened to what she said. We believed her. Then she lied. And she did that pretty quick in office, too. Kathy, I'm going to tell you that he introduced our legislation without us even knowing it, and we have no idea how the heck he even got it. And then he denied that he did it. And if you asked a bunch of people who were on one of those last calls with him last year, he literally sat stone-faced in a room of like, I don't know, 50 constituents and told everyone that, repeating some commentary from Joe Borelli, and which literally lit his constituents on fire as to why one of the most progressive caucus members of the council was quoting the Republican from Staten Island. And they were like, but Joe Borelli's not our councilman. You are. But I do believe Eric is term limited. So you're going to need someone else to run for that position. So make sure you find somebody. Eric's not done anything to help us. He wanted you to think he did, but he did not. Lynn Shulman hasn't helped us either, Gail. Lynn Shulman has not helped us at all. Yep. They want you to think they did. You're right, Gerald, but they did not. And we had 18 council members that got onto the legislation, but most of them did it out of pressure because they were running for election and not for any other reason. None of them have stayed in touch with trying to support us with this. Eric signed on to the bill only after his own constituents promised to run against him. Eric has not helped us. Go into his office and ask him, prove me wrong. I'm begging you to prove me wrong. Go to his office and say, we're bringing our bill back, Eric. Will you get back? Will you co-sponsor our bill? Joanne Ariola hasn't called me back either, Johanna. Yes, and Justin Brannon got on your bill because many of your retirees, even from his district, were supporting Ari Kagan, and he was in an election with an opposing candidate. Cold hard facts. Hate to say that. Once he started seeing all of you guys going to his office and doing that park event, that outdoor event. I'm going to Eric Botch's office with my hands on my big hips. No, Marianne, Vicky Palladino has not called me or texted me back. I've tried multiple times. I was even sitting in my living room on a Sunday and I saw her happen to pop up on a news channel I was watching doing an interview. And I texted her and said, "Hey, I'm watching you on TV in my living room." Nope, nothing back. Not even a friendly anything. Nothing. Well, Ellen, why don't you ask her if she'd introduce the bill? Because I bet you she'd say no. Bob Holden is retiring. So and we are going to need to make sure that whoever runs for that position will be supporting us. At this point, I'm not even looking at party lines. I'm looking at whoever will protect the retirees. Stringer has been a friend of the UFT for over 20 years. So Stringer is in bed with Mulgrew and his dirty politics. Here's the UFT posting from 2021. Are you posting something? I'm almost afraid to see this. And his evil twin, Adrian Adams. I don't know. You'll let me know if you see something. Anyway, it's 9:15, and I think I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. Oh, you put up something. Let's see. UFT sticking Stringer. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, but Nemi, I'm being told that there's a connection there even just last week. Because I asked. Because as I said the other day, outgoing, when he left office, he did an exit interview with Brian Lehrer on WNYC, and he was against this whole thing. But he has not called me, spoken about this, given us his support, anything. And I asked. So that article, let me see if I can come back to you. So it says UFT sticking with Scott, June 17, 2021. Unprecedented challenges make Stringer the best choice. UFT members have been working the phones and leafleting on street corners on behalf of Scott Stringer since the UFT Delegate Assembly endorsed him for mayor in June 22 Democratic primary. The April 19 endorsement followed an arduous 4-month-long vetting process that included 5 town halls witnessed by more than 12,000 UFT members. The resolution to endorse Stringer, the current city comptroller, was carried with 90% of the vote at the Delegate Assembly, the union's highest decision-making body. Well, that's funny. Mulgrew listens to that Delegate Assembly, the union's highest decision-making body, when he wants to. And so they supported Stringer, but they didn't support the mayor, Eric Adams, who became mayor. As a school system and as a city, we're going to be facing unprecedented challenges, the UFT president Michael Mulgrew said during a press conference following the DA vote. Maybe that explains the animosity that the mayor had towards Michael Mulgrew the other day while he was in Riverdale. I don't know. So, yep, I just Googled UFT.org, Scott Stringer, and that's the article that came up. So, yeah. Andrew Yang made accusations about Stringer and the UFT stayed silent. Yeah. Lois, thank you, Marion, for always keeping us on par. Made my monthly donation yesterday. Have a well-deserved restful weekend. You're welcome, my dear, and you too. Those who endorsed and campaigned for Stringer are all Unity Caucus members. Forget about it. Stringer bought and paid for it. Yeah, I see that. Stringer had a scandal that derailed his campaign. The UFT actively campaigned against Adams. That explains a lot, Peter. Now I understand. The mayor is making this sound personal. You guys, you are awesome. All right, I'm going to bed. And good night. Thank you. Thank you for all of you for listening. Listen, I know you guys are frustrated, right? Wasn't one of the greatest things to hear that they lifted the stay on the copays, that they could potentially open the door to charge these copays come January, right? But they could have charged them today. We get another 5 months reprieve. There's still other things that we have pending. You still have 2 other cases that we have to fight to make sure that you even have the option of traditional Medicare. Let's take one step at a time. We always said to you, we can never guarantee that we would win. I mean, I would love to win. I like winning, but as my lawyer said to us today, don't take this as a loss. This is a minor setback in that copays can come January, but you have foregone them from 22 to 25. But let's see what other things that we can come up with, okay? So keep the faith. We still have these 2 very big cases, the Campion case and Bentkowski case, and we have to argue the meat and potatoes of the copay case, okay? And that's where you can get that money back. If you haven't already, please make sure that you start to get all of those copay receipts in a folder like we asked you to when we first started the copay case. In your senior care, you can log into your Emblem account and I'll see if I could do a video on that this weekend on actually how to do that. You can go into your Emblem account and look up your cost, your claim cost in an Excel chart. Don't contact Emblem to do this. Just do this on your own. And if you can find other ways, just start making sure that you're collecting your copays that you paid from January 1st to 22 to January 12th to 23 and put them in a folder. Make sure that you know where that folder is, because one day we are going to need them. So, yes, we outlasted de Blasio. You're right, Nemi. Can you quickly review the September dates you want us to reserve? So, Lila, September 7th is the Labor Day parade in Manhattan. Make sure you block that because we're going to be in the parade. I need to finalize that detail next week. Then September 30th, we have a protest with Be a Hero and PNHP in Manhattan. Reserve that day. October 15th, we're going to Albany. So that's another day. And remember, that is an all-day event. And I want to say, I think the 17th is another court day from the brief that they just filed on the class action status of the copay case, and that would be in Manhattan. So those are your dates. But don't worry, I'll send them out in an email. Anyway, I'm going to sleep as soon as I finish my coffee. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. Thanks for keeping the faith. And I will be sure to keep you posted if anything does happen. I'll send out that email probably sometime this weekend with the dates for you to remember, a link to our videos, and try and enjoy yourself this weekend. I know I'm going to try to get outside because I've been working my buns off um, all week. Anyway, I love you guys. Take it easy. Hang in there. And I appreciate you too. Have a good night, everyone.